Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions made a shocking pick in the second round as they selected Tate Ratledge with the 57th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. In a position that many people believed could potentially be Mike Green or a number of day two pass rushers that they had higher grades on, Brad Holmes decided to go in a different direction, continuing to strengthen an already very strong position, potentially fill out that roster need for the next decade of NFL play. Tate Ratledge is a player that started 3 years at the University of Georgia for the Bulldogs and was one of the best offensive linemen, not only in the SEC, but in the country. Standing at 6'6", 308 pounds, with 32.5-inch arms, he is a big player for the guard position. Now, he started as a freshman in 2021, however, got hurt on the very first series of the season that kept him out for a majority of that year. He ended up redshirting in 2022, came back and played really well, but took a massive step forward in 2023, where he was named not only a first-team All-SEC right guard, but a second-team All-American in 2023. He followed that up with a senior campaign that saw him be not only a third-team All-American for the second year in a row, but again being named a first-team All-SEC offensive lineman. Now, Ratledge's career at Georgia was phenomenal. Any statistic you're going to look at is going to tell you that this was one of the best offensive linemen in America. With 37 career starts and 1,177 pass blocking snaps, Ratledge allowed just 2 sacks on his entire collegiate career and just 6 quarterback hits. On top of being a polished pass protector, he is also a nasty run blocker. He is aggressive in the run game and doesn't wait for the defensive linemen or linebackers to get to him. He will often get to the second level in run blocking, and very rarely does he get beat off the ball when it comes to the running game. Now, when it comes to Tate Ratledge, he played primarily at the right guard position. There are going to be some people that tell you he is a versatile player. He really isn't. He probably could play left guard and did for 5 entire snaps of his collegiate career, 1 as a sophomore, 3 as a junior, and 1 as a senior, but he primarily played 99.9% of his snaps at the right guard position. That is where he thrives, and that is where he will likely slot and play for the Detroit Lions as a rookie and beyond. So, what does that mean for the Lions offensive line? Well, we'll get to that in just a little bit, but first, I want to preface how good of an athlete Tate Ratledge is on top of being a very polished playmaker. Now, Tate Ratledge came into the NFL Combine and left with an RAS score of 9.96, meaning he is in the 99th percentile of offensive linemen to ever go and be recorded at the NFL Combine. With elite explosiveness, elite speed, elite agility, and elite size for the position, his 32-inch vertical, his 9'5" broad jump, and his 4.97 40-yard dash were some of the best times and best measurements ever recorded for the position. Tate Ratledge is a special athlete at the guard position. Of course, being 6'6" and 308 pounds, he's a little bit unorthodox for the size, a little bit larger than you typically expect, but that only helps his case when it comes to being a powerful mauler in the run game and a protective brick wall in the pass protection game. Strengths of Tate Ratledge include being an aggressive blocker. As we already mentioned, he is a player that will go and get the defensive lineman. He does not wait for the players to come to him. The old saying that pass protection is not passive is something that he takes to heart. He will find a blocker, he will find a player to hit, and he will find a way to impact every single play of his NFL career. He's a strong punch, he has a quick first punch, he is a very good player at getting hands on immediately, and he has a very mean mentality when it comes to being a run blocker, when it comes to being a pass blocker. His play strength is really strong, and I do think he's a really great athlete. He is one of those players that really has every tool to possibly succeed in the NFL. And the only reason he went in the second round is because guard just really isn't that valuable of a position. I think if you were to compare him to the other 32 players taken in the first round, you'll probably be able to argue that he is just as good, if not better, than some of those players taken. And really just overall, he is a special talent at the guard position that only fell because of positional value. Now, he is far from a perfect prospect. I think the biggest thing that he has is he does struggle with pad level. Being 6'6" and being kind of on the larger end of NFL guards and collegiate guards for that matter, he does struggle with pad level. Offensive linemen typically have a higher pad level than defensive linemen, but it is exaggerated with a guy like Tate Ratledge being so large. It is tough for him to get a lower pad level than the smaller defensive lineman, because even if a defensive lineman is 6'5", his pad level is naturally going to rise higher in the run game. So that is something that has shown up on tape a few times over the last couple of years. But again, nothing incredibly worrying about that position. On top of being 6'6", his arms aren't necessarily super long for the guard position. They are slightly below average for the right guard or left guard position in the NFL. But again, it's not to the point where it's really a huge concern for an NFL franchise. Again, he's still with a top 60 pick. He is still very much worthy of that top 60 pick. And I do think he's a player that will turn out to be a great selection for the Lions long term. So what does that mean for the Detroit Lions offensive line? Because they now have a little bit of a problem, right? You take a look at the offensive line for the Detroit Lions, and there are some positions that are filled out and you know are going to be okay. Left tackle, Taylor Decker, pretty plain and simple. At the center position, Frank Ragnow, easy, nice, done and clean. Penei Sewell, all-pro right tackle, slot and play, easiest decision you're ever going to have to make as an NFL general manager. And then you get to the guard positions, where the Detroit Lions have not one, not two, not three, but potentially 4 players that could start at guard in the NFL. Of course, you have Christian Mahogany, a player that last season was a 6th-round selection, but came in for the Chicago Bears game as a spot starter, as well as the NFL playoff game in the divisional round versus the Washington Commanders. He played phenomenally in both games, didn't allow a single sack or even a quarterback hit for that matter in either of the 2 contests, while going against 2 really good interior pass rushes of the Chicago Bears and the Washington Commanders. He's a player that is nasty in the run game, is big, athletic, and reminds me a lot of Tate Ratledge when he was coming out of Boston College. You have Graham Glasgow, the many-yeared NFL veteran at this point, who turns 33 next season, who struggled a year ago, but was playing like a Pro Bowl caliber guard just a season back in 2023. There were rumors that he could potentially move back to the right guard position where he plays his best football, as well as having the versatility to be a backup center if the Detroit Lions need an absence of Frank Ragnow. You have Tate Ratledge, of course, who, as we've just talked about, is a phenomenal guard prospect with top-tier athleticism, great numbers to back it up, and a mean mentality to start on the run-blocking side of an offensive line with Penei Sewell and Frank Ragnow on both sides of him. And then you have a guy like Miles Frazier from LSU, a player that was selected in the 5th round, but was widely regarded as a top 100 pick in the NFL draft. Many people believed he'd be a day 2 selection somewhere in the 3rd round, but ended up falling all the way to the 5th round of the NFL draft. And we'll do a whole video on Miles Frazier, but just to keep it short and sweet, he's a player that could start in the NFL. He is big enough, he is strong enough, he is versatile enough, and he is polished enough to play some NFL football. So what do you do? What do the Detroit Lions do with 4 players that could potentially start at the guard positions, with 3 of the 4 having versatility to play both left and right-sided? Well, it's going to be a battle in training camp. It's going to be something that needs to be watched and something that needs to keep an eye on. But in my opinion, if there were to be a week 1 game tomorrow, I think it would be Taylor Decker at left tackle, Christian Mahogany at left guard. I think Frank Ragnow at center, Tate Ratledge at right guard, and Penei Sewell, of course, manning the right tackle position, with Graham Glasgow being primarily the backup guard for both left and right guards, as well as the center position, with Miles Frazier taking a little bit farther of a back seat in the guard position to develop and grow. They are all players that I think could eventually start and very well may start at some point in their NFL careers. But as of right now, that is how I see the guard position playing out during camp. Overall, I think this is a fantastic pick. I don't know if you could have gotten better value at pick 57, and for that, I give it an A+. He is a potential 10-year starter at the guard position, a player with strong pass blocking skills, mean run blocking mentality, a fantastic athlete, and I think if you give this kid even just a single offseason with Hank Fraley, he's going to turn into a Pro Bowler. He's going to turn into maybe even the next great offensive lineman in Detroit. And I think that this pick makes a lot of sense. Was it the flashiest pick? Absolutely not. Is it a player that you're going to get the jersey of and potentially root for every single snap and every single down? Probably not. He's a player that you may hear once, maybe twice a game, if at all, throughout the NFL season. He's going to be a quiet player. He's going to be a player that doesn't get talked about very often, if not along with the rest of his offensive line mates, but he's a player that's going to fill a role for a very, very long time. And anytime you can walk away from an NFL draft with a 4, 5, 8, 10-year starter at a position, that is a home run hit. And that is what I believe Tate Ratledge will be for the Detroit Lions. But Let me know your opinions down in the comments below. What do you think about Tate Ratledge? What do you think about him as a player, as a fit, as just the selection at 57th overall? Was it a reach? Was it a good pick? I'd love to hear your guys' opinions down in the comments below. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.